What is up, guys? Pittsburgh White Schwartz back again with another deck tech. Today I'm bringing you an oldie but a goodie. We got Kantai Collection. Used to be a real menace in the English metagame back when everyone was running 8 gates and healers. But my build's a little bit different than some people's, but you gotta watch it. You gotta watch the video all the way to the end. You're stuck with it. So starting off, we got the Akatsuki. She's an Akatsuki, named after herself. You're gonna find that's like a theme here. There's a lot of cards, like effect names that you probably use that are from this set. Kantai invented them all, basically. So you play this, discard a card from your hand, look at the top 4 of your deck, pick a character, add it to your hand. Pretty much like, in my opinion, the best level 0 profile you could be running. Helps you mill through your first deck, helps you find your combos, helps you find more zeros if you need more zeros. You can even grab another copy of itself and dig for more. Really super, super good. And probably one of the reasons why the deck is still like kind of relevant. They have like a true Akatsuki. Next we run, I don't know who this character is, Tsushima. She is basically Armin Runner, kind of. No. If you have one other character on the stage, kind of.
She runs to the right.
Yeah, it's like I call her
stage, right?
Quirky Armin.
I guess
she gets 1500 power if you have 1 or less characters, and during your opponent's attack phase, you can run this to the far right position. It's like a little bit different than Armin. It only goes to the far right. I don't know why. I haven't seen the show. I don't know the lore. But you'll probably trip some people up. So many people are used to stuff running to the center, and you can get them with that play. Next, we got 2 copies of Inaduma. She is basically Ricky. I think that's what they're called, yeah. So when you play her to the stage, you reveal top card of your deck. If it is a character, she's fine. If you reveal something that's not a character, she rests herself, though. So if that happens, you just put her in the back row and use her next turn. And then when she is sent to waiting room from the field, you can pay 1, clock yourself from the top of your deck, and then search your deck for a level 1 or lower character. So it's like an on-death Ricky effect, basically. And you get to also top check, too.
That's not bad.
2 Amagis. She's an Amagi. Your middle position character gets 500 power, and when you play a climax, you pay 1 and look at the top 4 cards of your deck and add a character to your hand. It's so weird having to like describe cards. You usually just describe it as like the effect, but it's like yeah, Kantai made the effect, so it's so weird. But yeah, so the climax lineup we run in this deck is StockSoul and Gold Bar. So both of those work really nicely with this. StockSoul, even if you have no stock, you can put a stock in and then pay it out for this to get the plus. And gold bars will, you know, go into your hand, and then next turn you can play it and plus off this. Normally I'd want to run like 3 or maybe even a 4th copy of this, but there's so many back row slots that need to get taken up in Kantai. There's a lot of cards that want to be in the back row at one time, so you kind of have to run low quantities of each. Otherwise, you just have a ton of back row cards and only 2 spots to put them in. Here's another one of those cards. And she doesn't even have a name. 3rd Z1 class destroyer, Z3.
But that's her name.
Z3, I guess.
It's too long.
Yeah, so when you level up, you can pay 2 and search your deck. I think it searches deck. I don't think it's a salvage. Yeah, when you level up, you can pay 2 to search your deck for a Fleet Girl character and add it to your hand. This can even happen on your opponent's turn, so your opponent swings in, hits you up a level, you can pay out 2 and search. I've never used the effect. Not once. I've just never felt like I really needed it. Like, I've never really had a problem with hand at level 0 or anything with this deck, because the Akatsukis help a lot, being able to just continuously, you know, get whatever you need, you know. Get your level 1 combo piece, get another 0 if you need one. So I've never really needed it. And 2 is kind of a lot of stock to pay, I feel, as well. since your combo at level 1 also requires you to pay stock when you use it, so I just never feel like I can afford to pay the two. But the other more important reason I run it is because you can rest it to give 1500 power to a character, which is a lot of power, helps you get over stuff, but there's a theme in this deck where you need to be using act abilities a lot. And when you use act abilities, stuff on your field gets power. So mainly this is just there so you can use an act ability on your turn, and then your backups are there for your opponent's turn. As another act ability, I have one copy of this spammable Brainstorm. So it's just pay 1 mill 4 cards for each climax, search your deck for a character, but then you have to discard. Again, the only real reason I run it because I'm not usually a fan of spammable Brainstorms, but just need a way to use act abilities on my turn. And the benefit of this over the last card is I don't have to rest this, so I can like throw this up front, Brainstorm, and attack with it if I want to. Also really handy just to like dig through your first deck, or if you just need to like get climaxes out of your hand. And then a lot of people have cut these cards, but kicking it old school here. We have the Hatsukaze and Akatsuki Class Destroyer Hibiki. So these are two of the cards that were really dominant in Kantai back in the day, back in like, I don't know when it came out, that made the deck so terrifying and like the best deck in the game for a period of time. Because this says your opponent can't salvage, basically. This says they can't heal. So if you have this on the field, your opponent has any effect that salvages during the battle phase. So if they trigger a gate, if they have a combo that on reverse salvages a character, anything like that, your opponent can still salvage their card, but if they do, all their characters on their field lose -3 souls. This doesn't target, this doesn't require this to even be in the back row. It's just if they pick up a card from their waiting room and add it to their hand, a character during the battle phase, just -3 soul to their field. And it's not really something that you should be getting judge called on either, because the check timing of this is as they salvage this trigger. So it's not like someone can say, you know, call a judge on you and be like, they didn't give me a chance to, you know, they didn't alert me to their trigger or whatever, because the trigger actually only goes on the stack or into resolution when your opponent actually salvages, then it activates. That's the only time you have to tell them what it does.
It's only characters, right?
It's only characters, yeah. I was going to get to that in a moment. And the Hibiki is an anti-heal. So when this dies, and when it gets reversed, you can pay 1, send it to your memory. And as long as this card is in the memory, if a player were to heal, like play a card like a level 3 or whatever that's takes a card from their clock and puts it into their waiting room, they have to either pay 2 more stock, additional stock for that, or they clock themselves from the top of the deck to replace it. So basically, your opponent can't salvage, your opponent can't heal.
Very taxing cards.
That's the whole point of it. They're just tax effects. But there are some catches, though. The anti-salvage only stops characters. This only stops healing from clock. So it's really annoying. Bang Dream specifically just gets around this whole thing. Because like Bang Dream, they'll salvage event cards with the Christmas Cosme, or their stuff is triggering during the Encore step with a Fever combo, where this no longer applies. And if they have an effect that heals to memory, like, or heals to stock, like Aqua in Konosuba, or the Ron in the early play Ron in Bang Dream that heals to memory, this won't stop those either. So people kind of just throw those terms like salvage and heal around universally, but these are only for characters and only from clock. Characters from clock. And that's it for level 0s, 17 of them. Moving on to level 1s. This is one that most people don't run. It is the... That's not even in English. At least it has a text above it to help you. Verni. Brett would be really mad at me if I messed that one up. The Destroyer of Verni. She's 5,000 power, and as long as you have this card, the anti-heal, in your memory, she gets an extra 1,000 power. And also, when you send this card to your memory for its effect, you can summon this card from your graveyard. Ooh. So this card's not very good, like on its own. Like it's like a 1/06K, which isn't great, but I like the fact that you can actually get the plus off it. Like there are matchups where your opponent's not really playing a healing deck, and this card's kind of useless. Or you're just paying 1 to put this in memory and not really do much else immediately. I mean, there's a back half to the effect, so I figure I would like to get that effect off, if possible. Most people will run like I forget her name, some level 1 that allows you to, when she kills something, you generate a stock, but I don't really feel like there's a lot of stock troubles at higher levels with this deck, so I didn't feel like I needed that, and this kind of slotted in right there. But it's actually worked a lot better than, I initially thought it would. Like, ideally, you want to have this die on your opponent's turn and then have this come in and kill something. You don't want your opponent to be able to, like, swing over this, but it's actually a pretty decent card that people don't really give the chance to. The main combo in the deck, we have Prinz. She is on attack if you have the Climax, which is the StockSoul. You pay 1, search your deck for any character added to your hand, and she gets 2,000 power till the end of your opponent's turn. So usually you're going to be searching up a backup to help protect this. A few nice things about this combo is it is an on-attack combo, not on reverse. Meaning when your opponent, if your opponent's playing Attack on Titan or some sort of like standby deck that gets really big, you can still get your plus off this, even if you don't get a reverse. Also, against decks that require reverses, things like Attack on Titan, you have a lot of backups to make yourself backup way over them, because this sits at 6/5 if you get the effect, and then backup would put you at 8K, and then our other level 1, which is Z3 girl again. Don't get confused by the different art. That's like the hardest hurdle to overcome with this deck, is this card and the level 0 have the same exact art, just a different background. Same card. It's real lazy.
Yellow.
I mean,
it's more yellow.
she has to be a minor character. There's literally 2 pictures of her in the entire show. I'm guessing.
I'm watching this show. She's the main character.
Ironic. But yeah, this sits in the back row. It's a global 500 to all your characters, and whenever you use an activated ability, you give 1,000 power to one of your characters. So this will be any one of the level 0s I mentioned, like the Brainstormer or the Tap to Give Power. Those count as act abilities on your turn, or when you use backups, which I have 3 of in the deck. Backups are technically act abilities. So if you use one of these, if you use a backup on your opponent's turn when they attack you, the power from this will kick off as well, allowing your Prinzes to wall up to 65, then an extra 15 to 8, and then that would put them at 95. Oh, wow. They get really big. Like, your opponent's not going to get a reverse on them if you set it up right. Most people just run 3 of the 1,500 backup. I have the this one in there as an option as well. This is just always 1,500. This is a 1,000 backup, but when you play it, you can reveal your hand, and if there's a Climax in your hand, it turns into a 2K backup. A little bit of an odd choice, but your opponent's probably only going to be playing around a 1,500 backup, and having the choice to be able to search out a slightly stronger backup in the matchups where you need a little bit extra power could really save your ass. And it's a deck with gold bars, so Climaxes tend to go in our hands, so it's not like you're going to whiff the effect too often. And you're still getting all the power from these other effects too, so even if it's only a 1,000 backup, all the other effects will fire off, letting you get to decent power anyway. And then that's all the characters for level 1. We got 3 events too. It's Compass. Aside from the Akatsuki, this is probably like the other big card keeping the deck relevant. So it's an event counter. So it doesn't count as an act ability. Even though it's like a counter, it doesn't count as an act for your power pump effects because it's not an activated ability, it's not a character. But what this does is when your character's attacked, you mill the top 3 cards of your deck. if there is a climax in those cards, you choose one of your opponent's characters in battle and they can't deal damage to you that turn. So basically, it's like a one-stock anti-damage counter, which is super efficient. Most anti-damage counters, like tap counters or money counters, these are like, they turn on at like level 2, level 3, and they cost like 3-4 stock. This, you can use this at level 1, and it costs 1 stock. It's super, super efficient in terms of rate. I've only ever really seen people run this as a 2 or 3 of. To be honest, I think you could, if you really wanted to like maximize this, you could easily run like a 4th copy of this. It's definitely a really powerful card, but your opponent can kind of get around it by side attacking and whatnot, but it's still really powerful. And you don't always need to use it like in the end game to stop their combo turn. You can just use it throughout the game because it's so affordable and just get that incremental advantage along the way. Moving on to level 2s. We don't got a lot, so we just have 3 of this. She is another girl with no name. Z1's.
She has a name. What do you mean? She has
First Z1 class destroyer, Z1 Zwei.
Yeah, she's 2 in German.
She's 2 in German. So, most Kantai decks I've seen are going to be running, there's an early play level 3. If you have 2 or less climax in your waiting room, and it heals you when you play it. But because I'm running the anti-heal package, I chose to just run this instead. But this card's like really, really holds its own. It's very, very good. When this card attacks into your opponent's level 3, it gets 3,000 power until the end of your opponent's turn. So then it will sit 10k on the swing back. And then whenever you use an act ability, it gets 500 power per other character on your field. So this card destroys early plays. So if your opponent's playing an early play heavy strategy, you're going to be fishing these out of your deck with your princes and whatnot. And then throw this in front of their level 3, attack with it. It will shoot up to 10,000 power. And then if you used like a brainstorm or a power pump effect earlier in your turn, it's now at 12,000, 13,000, 14,000 even. It gets there. So you're definitely killing their early play. And then when they swing back at you, you use a backup. And it's already sitting at 10k, and it's an act ability, so the second effect on this fires, so you're going up to like at least 13,000 on the way back. So you kill the early play on your turn, and then when they swing back at you, you kill it again. And it's only 1 stock to play to, which is kind of nice because you are paying stock for your level 1 combo. And, you know, the finisher is a little bit stock intense, I guess. I guess it's not too bad, but you'd still want to be like just try fielding level 3s at level 3. There's no real way to cheat on stock, so you're kind of paying out a lot later on. But very efficient card, and doesn't conflict with any of the anti-heal or anti-salvage packages I have in the deck. And going on to level 3s, it's pretty clean cut. I have 3 Akagis and 4 copies of Musashi. Musashi is a Musashi. When you attack with it, if they cancel the damage, you mill the top card of your deck, and your opponent burns equal to that card's level +1. So it's kind of a nice card to use as a finisher, and if you don't have your climax combo, or if it's just an open lane where they don't have a character, it still pushes a lot of damage, because they're either eating like 3 or 4 damage from this, and even if they don't, you're milling and burning them again. So you're pretty much guaranteed to get something through. And then Akagi is the finisher I actually choose to run in this deck, as opposed to the Kashima off the gate that most people have switched to. At the beginning of your climax phase with this, you dump your whole stock. She says you take all your stock and you put it in your waiting room. So you might be thinking, well, that kind of sucks. You know, I have to just get rid of all my stock. All that compression I've worked for all game is like no longer relevant. But it's actually a very beneficial effect most of the time. Considering there's a lot of ways to, like, people like Bang Dream or Konosuba, all these decks have ways to stock swap you with events that will just like empty your stock and put a bunch of clean cards from your deck in there. and that can be really annoying. And this just gets around it completely because they can't stock swap you if you have no stock. So it ironically plays around that pretty well too. And whenever you dump your stock with this effect, all of your characters get 1,000 power until the end of your opponent's turn. So they sit pretty big on the swing back too. If you have multiples of these, they both will trigger, and even after you pay out all your stock for the first one, it still attempts to pay out your stock for the second one, and you still get the extra 1,000 power from it too. So like if you tri-field Akagi's, you'll dump your stock once but get 3,000 extra power to your board. It just says empty your stock. It doesn't actually require you to, pay a cost of any kind.
Clock shoots too, right?
Yeah, and the climax combo with the gold bar on reverse clock shoot. Compared to the Kashima finisher, I think this one actually is very comparable, like equally as good, basically. Because Kashima, the red finisher, requires it's on reverse, burn your opponent equal to the number of reverse characters they have. So on 1 reverse, it would burn for 1. On 2 reverses, it burns for 2. On 3, it burns for 3. But when your strategy at level 2 and level 1 and the whole game is to just wall up bigger than your opponent, they're not really going to have cards to reverse most of the time. So there's no way in hell they're giving you a tri-reverse. So you're never getting the dream with Kashima and getting all the big burn damage. Like, best case scenario, you burn 1, burn 2, but at that point, clock shooting 2 is probably better. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
clock shoot's probably better than burn 1, burn 2. So a good player's not going to be leaving you reverses anyway. So I think the Kashima is a little bit deceptive in how useful it is. And then that runs gate, and then I want to run the anti-salvage because I think the anti-salvage and anti-heal are a big draw to Kantai as a deck and help it stay somewhat relevant nowadays. A lot of decks just will jam gates still. Check out last week's video. You'll see 8-gate Gun Gale. Wrecks that deck. Love Live Sunshine specifically too. Like, just like closing thoughts on the deck. Love Live Sunshine really gets hurt by this card. They really rely on the Chicas and the empty gate triggers in their deck just to set up their hand. And they're an on-reverse character salvage combo. So this stops their combo, it stops their gates, pretty much everything about them.
Bunny Girl as well.
Bunny Girl's combo is a salvage, although they might not care as much, but you can still get some incremental advantage with this card. And then 8-gate Goblin Slayer.
Yep.
But something I found with this deck too is like, these cards are both really powerful in the matchups where they're good and really kind of lackluster in the matchups where they're not. So if you don't know what your opponent's playing, you got to really think whether or not you want to keep these cards in your hand. And you got to know your matchups too, because if you see your opponent's mulligan and they're playing Bang Dream, I would know that I just discard these cards from my opening hand. Maybe keep this one because of the global power pump, but like you just have to know your matchups and like when either of these cards are good. If your opponent has a real heal-heavy top end, try to get this card early. If your opponent's playing 8 gates or a lot of gates in a salvage combo at level 1, try to get this card as quickly as possible. Maybe even hard maul for it. You probably don't want to hard maul, but definitely, keep that on your mulligan. Anyway, guys, that's the deck. Thanks for watching. Oh, I better show you these two. Climaxes, 4 StockSouls, 4 gold bars. Enough said. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you like the deck. Subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.